Joer number one again. Look at that. The world feels normalized. All right. Hey, Brian. Uros. Bjorn came in first on my side. Yeah. Did you try to buy toilet paper? I've been seeing videos of like overweight middle-aged women stabbing each other over toilet paper. I don't know if it's kind of fun to watch, scary, sad, or all of the above. Depends on the perspective, I guess. I don't know why toilet paper would be your worst concern, right? Like if there's nothing left to eat, what are you worried about toilet paper for? I mean, as long as you got one towel in the house and running water, I guess you'll figure it out, right? At some point. Thank you, Oliver. Appreciate it. Coffee's good. Coffee's good, though it'll just, I mean, I can drink coffee and go right to sleep. Lots of people drink coffee and can't sleep. So I guess if you're worried and you're drinking coffee, it might be a double-edged sword there. But you know what happens is just like in times of crisis, people go to cash, right? In times of crisis, people think in their head like immediately what's the worst thing that could happen. And I guess somehow people think, running around with a dirty ass is the worst thing that can happen to them. I don't know. So toilet paper becomes number one on their shopping list, which is weird, to be quite honest. There's a million other things I think I'd choose to get into my house if I really thought it was Armageddon before toilet paper. But hey, I was going to try to make a joke about when shit hits the fan, but I couldn't really wrap my head around how I was going to bring that back to toilet paper. So, all right, guys, we'll give it a few minutes and then we'll roll in. Interesting week. If you're a hodler, interesting, not really for any good reason, but interesting nonetheless, right? Will crypto survive? Well, I think yes. Bitcoin has proven, though, not just Bitcoin, but Bitcoin has proven it is not a safe haven asset, and it's not a store of value either. So, again, as I said a million times on this show, Bitcoin is a speculative asset. That's it. I think the one takeaway from this is, the only reason institutional money found Bitcoin or was interested in it is because they believed it to be a non-correlating asset, which simply means that when the whole world goes to shit, it wouldn't follow suit. Now, we haven't had a major test of the whole world going to shit, I would say, in most people's lifetimes within this chat, mine included. So if you look at, the last kind of really big scare from an economic standpoint, you can scan a few bubbles and a few bubble bursts, but there really hasn't been one. I mean, you'd have to go back maybe World War II, World War I, Great Depression. You can say the Great Recession, but not really, though, because it had a completely different effect, and this is a daze that turned into a major market meltdown, and all based on fundamentals that aren't going to stop in the short term. So thanks. Yeah, I figured I'd wear my calm everybody down, breathe, listen to Jesus shirt. But this is quite unprecedented in terms of how, coronavirus is meaningless in terms of global health, to be quite honest. It's near meaningless, right? I'm not saying the 4,000 people that died and maybe the thousands, or not maybe, the thousands that will die. as an indirect result of coronavirus are not, important to somebody. But the real crisis is the economy, the global economy. This could take years, even decades, to mend, depending on how long the fear lasts. And considering this is an airborne respiratory virus, fear should start to subside towards the warmer months in the majority of the world, which is going to come in the next 2 or 3 months. Until that happens, though, the escalation has been amazing. So I think what it's shown, now back to my original point, is that from an institutional money standpoint, do they stick around? Because I was just chatting with somebody and they're like, yeah, I think most of the dumb money has been pushed out and, now, but if most institutional money got into Bitcoin because they made a false assumption that it was an asset that was non-correlating, are they also dumb money? And does that mean they're also going to get out? What are these Bitcoin hedge funds going to look like after this event? Are people really going to want to leave their money there? Regardless if it rebounds or not, quickly or slowly. Look, eventually it will rebound. All assets, unless they simply are wiped out, eventually rebound. The question is, does it if it can fall in days, weeks, to wipe out years of gains, how long does it take to recoup them? That's the question. We haven't answered that question yet. Anyway, guys, I don't want to go off too many tangents here. Let me roll into our actual show here, and then we'll get back to Ask Me Anything. And I'm sure there'll be some tangents on these news stories because it's been one hell of a week. So if you have never joined us before, maybe there's 1 or 2 of you out there, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12, 15. I don't know. Maybe this is the week we go viral. Who knows? Everybody's going to be, I think, wanting to know what's going on with crypto prices. We have a bit of an agenda we follow, right? So I start out with market news. I have 10 pieces of news curated over the last week by our Telegram elites. Thanks, guys and gals, for that. I give a comment on each one. Sometimes it lasts about a minute. If it talks about Binance, that triggers me. It might take 2 or 3. We'll see how it goes. But 10 to 15 minutes, we get to those 10 pieces of news. Then we go into Kevin Explains Crypto. I take a topic, a word, a phrase that's chosen for me every week by someone, somewhere, somehow, and I define it. This week's term, it falls pretty nicely into what happened this week and what is still happening. Then we do our live Q&A here on YouTube, over in this direction. And then Reddit questions. I think there's 2 or 3 this week. I might answer those before I answer the live questions. We'll see how that goes. Let's get into the news, and then we'll roll on from there. Number 1 on a list of 10, will the Fed's massive 1.5 trillion injection send Bitcoin skyrocketing? No. That's an easy one. No, it won't. I think Bitcoin has proven to be correlating. Now, will the 1.5 trillion injection send the stock market skyrocketing? Nope. You know why? Because stocks are mainly buoyed by sentiment. Sentiment right now is shit globally. We are not in, there's 2 types of markets. When you look at the nice little half moon here, you have fear and greed. We're in a fear-based market, extreme fear. Extreme fear that happened literally almost overnight. When I say overnight, it could be days, could be weeks, but literally almost overnight in the grand scope of things. And that's not going to clear up overnight. So no, nothing that right now, Bitcoin is doing worse, on par or worse than the worst indice around the world. And I don't expect that to change in the short term. Number 2, Bitcoin is fiat money in France, court ruling. Dig into that one because I'm pretty sure I read this. I think it's simply treated as money. That doesn't make it money. Okay, the commercial court of Nanterre is ruled that Bitcoin is fiat money in France and is fungible as well as is a fungible as well as a consumable asset. Well, obviously it's fungible. That's anyway. Anybody who doesn't know what fungible means, by the way, it just means one unit can't be discerned from the next. So it's like if you have a bunch of, I don't know, really cool CoinMetro coins. This isn't like a ploy. Anyway, if I have a bunch of these, let's say in my hands, you can't tell one from the other. If you give me this one and I put it in with these and do this and give you this one back, it's the same. But it may not be the same token you gave me. Fungible. Okay. Sorry to go off on a little unrelated. Okay. Anyway, I'd have to dig into this because I don't think the rule is saying that it is fiat money, but that it has the same. It is akin to. Anyway, it's a small ruling. We're not talking about the country as a whole. Anyway, I guess good and bad. Again, all these types of precedents that we make simply mean that the same restrictions and rules and shitty things we don't like about fiat can now be applied to Bitcoin, right? So not necessarily a win, depending on what side of the fence you sit on, whether you're an anarchist or whether you're, this is going to become a tool in traditional finance. Depends on whether you like that ruling or not. Number 3 on the list of 10, Bitcoin is money printing protection as U.S. bonds hit lowest ever. Is it really? Really? I mean, really? Like, can anybody really make that argument right now? Now, that doesn't mean it isn't. But based on the last 48, 72 hours, last week, can you really make that argument stick? What is your argument for how fast it fell, how it fell in correlation with other markets, how every night in the past 48 to 72 hours as the Nikkei and the Asian markets open, it tanks, levels off during European and U.S. markets, and then tanks again. Look, I don't see, people always talk about this printing of money, right? They keep printing money. That button pushing is pretty much one of the only things that modern economists have thought of to be able to steady the boat, so to speak, when you hit crisis. But you know what? We're still here. Fiat money's still here, and it still has a relative value. You can look at the 95% loss over time when somebody says $1 was worth whatever back in the day, and now it's worth less, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, that's only one aspect of buying power, right? If you look, people in general, and when I mean people, I mean the mass of people. Let's just say in the U.S., to take an example, since the dollar always gets killed, the UK gets killed, so the pound or the dollar doesn't matter. If you look at what the middle class looked like back in 1900 versus what the middle class looks like now in terms of overall accumulation, maybe not just wealth, access to different things, etc. It's not the same playing field. So when you look at the actual value of an underlying currency, anyway, I'm not defending the currency either, printing Bitcoin is not printing. It has not proven itself to be printing protection, at least during the last week. That's for sure. Number 4 on the list of 10, Japan's financial regulator launches global blockchain governance initiative. Great. Japan definitely being on the forefront of regulation when it comes to crypto. One of the first to apply basic standards across the board in crypto, and now looking to basically use blockchain as a governance vehicle. That means at some point automation of governance, which maybe means the regulator isn't as needed as it was before. So that's going to be an interesting one. I think we're probably 20 years away, 10 to 20 years away from actually seeing some type of, let's say, consensus mechanism that runs governance that can actually reduce government and regulation. And not because it'll take that long for the technology to evolve. It's going to take probably 2 to 5 years for the technology to evolve where it actually can be used in specific scenarios. And a lot of those scenarios are going to involve AI and other things that simply aren't possible today using the technology we have. But it's about, once the technology works, to actually sell the government on it. And that's going to take some time, and then sell the populace on it as well. Number 5 on the list of 10, Ripple CEO criticizes Bitcoin and Ethereum's energy usage. Yeah, because when they sell off, hundreds of millions worth of XRP, they don't use much energy. That's great. Look, both sides have things they can criticize. I think both sides. The one thing I have to say about Ripple in general, or XRP in general, is that while you can argue, try to argue, that XRP has no direct correlation to any of their services, that's actually incorrect. They have several services that aren't marketed to the public that are marketed to as a clearinghouse type, I guess a clearinghouse, credit clearinghouse type of mechanisms that absolutely use XRP. And they have a specific use case and a specific market they target. Bitcoin doesn't. Now, Ethereum has an argument. DeFi has obviously been under strain this week. If anybody's seen the Maker and the Maker Die news that has come out, I mean, it's the whole DeFi movement is kind of in an uproar, considering the fact that if the underlying asset of the entire decentralized financial push can't maintain price stability during times of crisis, are you really building the new platform for finance on the right type of technology or asset? Big question. Number 6 on the list of 10, Kraken announces plans to expand Indian operations as crypto ban lifts. Yep, I think that's probably on everybody's radar. I see a Reddit question to me about that as well. It's definitely something that we're thinking about. Lots of people there, right? Still, though, not the easiest place in the world to do business. So you need a specific strategy. It's definitely on our radar. I think it makes sense for Kraken. It makes sense for everybody to move into India, obviously. The one question is how seamless you can make that move. Number 7 on a list of 10, Bitcoin's still no match for gold in terms of store of value. Yeah, I would say gold itself isn't the best store of value, but it's definitely held up 1,000 times better than Bitcoin over the last week or so. That doesn't mean it will continue to hold up. Look, no matter what gold bugs say, no matter what Bitcoin maximalists say, in times of pure crisis, cash is still king. So we'll have to see if that ever changes, though not sure it ever will, because it comes back to human nature. Human nature being that if you're holding a bunch of gold bars, not everybody accepts them. You don't feel as, rosy, and you don't have butterflies in your stomach when you're holding on gold and you realize that you might need to buy toilet paper. Same thing goes for Bitcoin, but if you got a bunch of cash in your house, somebody will probably take that in exchange for something. You might get price gouged like crazy, but it's probably going to work. Number 8 in a list of 10, Tether gets into DeFi with Flash Loans Protocol AAVE or AAVE or AAVE. I don't know. AAVE. Flash loans. Yeah, really great idea during market crashes like these. Speaking of DeFi, as I said before, imagine, I've talked about this before. I talked about the risk there is to giving staking and loans, collateralized loans using crypto. I saw Bankera, I'll mention them by name because it's on their website, give collateralized loans with a loan to value ratio of up to 75%. That means if a week and a half ago, I would have gave them 1 million worth of Bitcoin, I would have received 750,000 in some other asset. Now that 1 million in Bitcoin could theoretically be worth 600,000. So what do we do with that loan now? What happens if next week it's 300,000? Have they already liquidated it? If they have liquidated it, how do they actually manage that hedge? Are we getting into really complex management here? Does it require more than just a simple algorithm or smart contract or somebody at a desk? What happens if you're managing that risk with synthetics on something like BitMEX and they decide to go offline for a while or just start to throw multiple liquidations at you at once because they can't handle the liquidation pile that they're currently sitting on? What do you do then? I think it underscores that we're still in a very immature market with very immature products built on very immature infrastructure for in many ways, shapes, and forms. And we are not ready for this type of global catastrophe. The idea of Bitcoin was built out of the last catastrophe, the Lehman crisis, 2008, the whole, but we've proven now that 12 years later, in those 12 years, we spent no effort to make sure that hypothesis was correct. And now we're getting kicked in the face because of it. Number 8 on a list of 10, number 9, Jesus. Europe's new AML rules make crypto more attractive to institutions, says Börse Stuttgart executive. No, it doesn't at all. Actually, Stuttgart, I don't know which executive this was, but it doesn't at all make it more attractive. It makes it more accessible. But the only thing that made crypto attractive was non-correlation to institutional investors. And this week, bye-bye. Number 10 on a list of 10, Russia seeks to block darknet technologies, including Telegram's blockchain. Seeks is probably the most important word in that sentence. Good luck would be my. Now, having said that, almost every single technology that supposedly provides some form of privacy. Fix the mic. Is something wrong with the mic, guys? Because I hope I haven't been talking to myself here for like the last 20 minutes. But anyway, seek, like I said, is the most important phrase there. The most importantly, because even though every privacy technology is already pretty much hacked, still stopping people from using a technology is usually pretty difficult to do, and if not almost impossible, especially for people that know about technology. Okay, I'm going to run into these Reddit questions first, since there's only 2 of them as I see. Okay, yeah, it might be just because of the distance, or I don't know. It was a little bit far away from my face. You know, Corona, man. You know, I don't want to get too close to the mic. You know, you guys might be transmitting Corona through it or something. That's a non-technical explanation. Okay, so number 1 from Reddit, from K Savage 79. Now that India court has declared crypto league for citizens to own, legal, I guess, for citizens to own, trade, and use. Kevin, will you be taking a trip to start a sandbox there for CM? There's like 1 billion people that just got the green light, close to 2 billion, I think. Sandbox, I don't know. I don't know if we need a sandbox. What are we sandboxing? Definitely we'll be looking to onboard more Indians. And that means doing some market research to understand exactly what we need to be doing there. Obviously, having rupees and stuff like that on board makes sense. And it's something that I've already started to look at, since we constantly look for additional providers of payment gateways and things like that. And that's now on the list. Apollyon, is there any way to apply for a summer internship at CoinMetro? Sure. Send us a message. jobs@coinmetro.com. Tell us why you should come. As long as we're all still here and not dead from coronavirus, then, you know, the door will be open. All right. So let's jump into, oh, shit, Kevin explains crypto. Almost forgot about that this week. So this week's term, Kevin explains crypto, one that most people that are involved in crypto this week probably know of, even if they didn't know of it the week prior, liquidation. So obviously not a term that came out of crypto, but one that can definitely be applied to the market, and especially this week, as I said before. So what does liquidation mean? Well, liquidation is essentially having your open orders, your open trading orders closed because you don't have enough money to support those orders, right? So with using industry terminology, we'd say that you don't have enough margin. So everybody's heard usually the term margin call. That isn't really somebody named Margin giving you a call on the phone. It's simply an alert to tell you, hey, buddy, look, you're getting close to the point where you need to give us more money to maintain these open positions. And when those open positions can no longer be maintained because you don't have enough margin, you don't have enough money in your account to maintain basically the risk that's involved with holding usually leveraged positions, you get liquidated. And that means your positions are closed forcefully at market. The worst thing about a liquidation is that things are done at market, because, well, they have to be. At market means it's not a limit order. It's not an order that sits in the book and fills at that specific price. So you know at least you're going to have zero money in your account. But that's the worst case scenario. They get filled at market. And when more and more people get liquidated, more and more market orders are trying to get filled. Guess what happens? Slippage. This isn't Kevin explains crypto term this week, but slippage basically means I want to get out here, but there's nobody actually buying here. They're buying, well, somewhere down here or somewhere up here, depending on what side of the book you're on. And then you have negative balances. So yeah, liquidation can lots of times lead to negative balances. It also brings me another word, which was my vote this week for Kevin Explains Crypto, which was capitulation. Capitulation actually comes from war times. It's basically when you just throw out the white flag, give up, and just follow the enemy. That's pretty much what capitulation is. In markets, however, it simply means that everybody that's trying to hold the price, like, you know, Bitcoin, oh, Bitcoin recovered from 3,800 last night, and now it's sitting around 5,000. People are buying. Yeah, but eventually the money flowing into 5,000 stops. You get capitulation, and it tanks again. That's probably what's going to happen tonight in Asia. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, let's jump into Ask Me Anything. I got the t-shirt comment. Yeah, awesome. It's the update on marketing. So we had someone accept one of our marketing offers today, I believe. That's for digital. So somebody that's going to be heading up our digital marketing. Great guy. Met him, I think, once in the office. He's been in here twice already, I think. Accepted the offer, and now we just have to figure out logistics. And with coronavirus, people working from home, toilet paper running out, all that good stuff. Logistics might get a bit interesting over the next 30 to 60 days, but that's where we stand. CoinMarketCap, Oliver would know about that. I don't think they've been back in touch, or well, nothing significant has happened as of yet. What's the ballpark turnout for fees for CM in 36 hours, volume 2.5 mil? Yeah, that 2.5 mil was definitely not 100% accurate. I don't know the exact percentage of what was accurate as of yet. Right now, we're not wasting time to figure it out. But if we assume the 2.5 million was accurate, you can quickly do calculations at 0.1% or 10 basis points, right? You can quickly do those calculations. It's 2.5K. You have to assume we pay makers, so it's probably half of that, 1.2K. And then you also have to assume that we do pay liquidity providers as well. So there could be another chunk that's eaten out of that. Maximum would be 1.25K probably. The minimum could be as low as 40% of that. So there's some quick math for you. What's the word for Kevin explains crypto? Yeah, that was liquidation. What's new regarding the self-assessment guidelines and bringing on GBP? So self-assessment guidelines, no idea. The bank has gone silent on that note. But as I said, I told you 60 days, roughly 2 weeks ago. So within 50 days, roughly 45 days, I would envision being able to bring on assets we want to bring on, regardless if the bank has those guidelines in place or not. As far as GBP, working on it as well with additional providers. It all depends on onboarding and things like that. But anyway, we're working on it. That's the point. It's one thing's on the top of my list personally, is for different payment gateways and things to get those launched. How bad is the whole coronavirus recession situation for CoinMetro? Well, in experience from having run, FX Pig for years, etc., I don't care if people are buying, if they're selling. I just care that they're doing something. So in terms of, economical scares, trading for many people is a vice. And one of the best industries to be in are vices when it comes to times of crisis, right? If you're an alcohol distributor, you don't really care that everybody doesn't have a job. They're still probably going to buy alcohol. They might even buy more. Cigarettes, same thing. Prostitution, same thing. Gambling, same thing. And gambling and trading are quite well intertwined. So for us, speaking personally, I don't see any risk, any additional risk to our business model when you tack on global recessions or global issues. Now, this particular issue is still going to be the main epicenter of this issue. Let's say the crux of this issue, the weight of this issue is going to be short-lived. But the effects won't be that short-lived, right? But the major punch in the gut is happening now and will probably happen leading up into probably end of April, early May. Then we're going to start to see real change in how many people are getting the virus, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. You will start to see normalcy. Normalcy in China is already starting to happen. Next 60 days, we'll go through this kind of ebb and flow through the Western world of having complete lockdown into then coming back to life, right? When that happens, China will probably already have recovered to a certain extent. Now the question is, how much recovery will be needed for major industries that are affected? Travel, well, travel is probably one of the biggest, but travel, hospitality, et cetera, et cetera. Will these industries be able to recover quickly? In terms of trading, I don't see it changing much. In fact, I think during times of crisis, we see spikes in revenue rather than falters in revenue. It's also a time for us to take advantage of fear. When fear hits the market, sometimes very agile players can move quicker. So obviously that's something we're trying to do. Sandbox and the CSD progressing nicely. We're a week ahead of where we were last week. I know my co-founder at Ignium had a meeting today and yesterday, I think, with 2 different issuers, or the day before. We have a meeting together, I think, next Tuesday with an issuer as well. So yeah, progressing nicely. Why has the quant marketing push not started yet? You said months ago that it was close. Yeah, it was close months ago. I mean, it didn't take years, right? I know that we had some discussion, I heard around the office in finance about issuing some type of invoice over to quant so they could supply us with some extra quant, which was going to be used for some marketing purposes. I don't know if that's been completed yet. The actual amount was based, I think, on a euro value. So maybe we're just going to get more quant. So, you know, waiting might not have been a bad thing. But yeah, it's in progress. With current developments, how much harder will it be to raise more capital this year? And do you have contingency policy? Everybody has contingency policies, guys, but that's a really nice rosy word for I have something written down on paper that I hope I never have to do. That's what a contingency plan is. The point is you need to stay agile, and we've been agile. Last year, we were agile for 14 months, and we maintained a shoestring budget and still produced product. And there's no reason to say we can't do that again. I don't think it becomes harder to raise money. It may even become easier to raise money, especially if you look at how you coin, pun intended, this epidemic virus, whatever this global economic warfare that we're currently sitting in. If you talk about, you know, this probably wouldn't have happened so fast if we had, you know, crypto rather than fiat money. That's an argument. That more people, even though prices may be falling, you're probably having more transactional volume happening in the market. The fact that even from central banks now, you're having central banks focus more on digital fiat rather than paper fiat because of these type of fears. So, you know, I don't think, you know, it's not like we're raising money from airlines or other direct industries that are directly affected, more affected than anyone else currently. So I don't think it changes much, to be honest. I think if at anything, it stays the same in terms of capital raise, or it gets slightly easier in terms of capital raise, depending on who we're targeting to raise that capital. Looks like you were right about crypto not being a safe haven. Yeah, look, guys, you know, everybody likes to say, I told you so every once in a while. Not that this is the best thing to say, I told you so about, but it hadn't proven itself. It wasn't the fact that, you know, I envisioned some coronavirus in 2020 that would wipe out. No, but you can't say something is something without proof that it is. It has to have proven itself. What does it prove itself? It came out after the last major crisis, and there's been no major crisis up to this point. So how could it possibly prove itself as a safe haven? Gold bugs can argue that gold has proven itself, you know, probably 50 times over the last couple hundreds of years, though it's also proven itself a few times not to be a safe haven. A big one of that, and I've talked about on the show before, is during the 80s. 80s, you know, gold was $800 an ounce. At the time, if you probably took $80 till now, that's probably 2K, 2.2K, something like that, in equivalent dollar value. It then fell to 260 when I was buying it in 2004 and 5, into 2006, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, not the best store of value either during specific economic downturns or just economic circumstances. But this is the first time that Bitcoin had its chance to prove itself as an uncorrelated asset during a time of global crisis, and it failed miserably. Doesn't mean it'll fail in the future, though, but it failed this time. That's for sure. Do you see a lot of other crypto exchanges getting wiped out? I think a lot of businesses are going to get wiped out simply because, well, they're going to run into hard times. Their clients are going to run into hard times. Spending patterns may change. You know, so I think crypto exchanges, coronavirus or no, like I said, I don't see such a major impact happening on vices, and trading is one of them. But I think they would have closed anyway for a myriad of other reasons. And Corona's not going to help with that. That's for sure. Hey, Kev, any major marketing drives on the horizon? Cash market at the moment running out of bog rolls. Yeah, well, we have a head of digital marketing accepted an offer. That's our first new official hire on the marketing team. I think he may be in towards the end of the month, next 2 weeks. So now we're still looking for senior content. We're still looking for a few other things. So what I would say is that we expected by end of March kind of to push out the first marketing. I think we're going to be about 2 to 3 weeks behind schedule on that. But outside of that, we will start seeing more and more pops from marketing end of March going into April. Do you think this will be an actual economic collapse, or is it something that will recover quickly? I think it shows major weak points in the entirety of the financial ecosystem. And that is including this new financial ecosystem we thought we were creating, that is blockchain crypto tokenization. It shows that, once again, human nature usually can destroy pretty much humans, never mind human nature. We're really good at destroying shit and over and underestimating. So I think we have a lot of work still to do. When it comes to equities and things like that, we've seen years worth of progress wiped off the map by what seemingly is a very small risk to global health in larger terms, which turned into a much larger systemic risk when it comes to the economy. Like I said, it shows that everything we've created doesn't work. And that includes what we've seen Bitcoin prove this week. It also doesn't work. But it doesn't work probably for the most part because of humans, right? Humans panic. Humans panic because of what they read and what they hear, and not necessarily based on rational thought either. They listen to other people and they believe in them. Again, which necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing either. I don't know. Right now, it depends on how worse it gets. We have at least 2 months worth of shit fundamentals coming our way. Because, well, if it's all based on, if it continues this way, coronavirus, respiratory illness, just like the flu, the season doesn't mean you can't get it. People get the flu in the summer, guys. Flu doesn't go away. That's why we call it flu season. We call it flu season because many more people get it because it can transmit much easier during the season, which is the colder months of the year. So as we get into those warmer months, the risk is going to diminish. We've already seen the risk start to diminish in Asia. We have now the next 45 days to go through the bullshit that they went through in the rest of the world. And then we'll start to see it come back. Now, in that time, we're going to get shit fundamentals. We're going to have politicians going on TV and saying dumb shit. We're going to have people going on YouTube and podcasts and crypto Twitter and regular Twitter saying dumb shit. We're going to have lots of people saying dumb shit. And then people doing dumb shit because of the dumb shit they hear, listen, and read. And now, again, if we're being buoyed by any type of smart money, if the smart money got into this game because they thought it was non-correlating and they start to see that it is correlating, they will get out. They will cut their losses. And that could cause quite the fall. Tone Vase said we're going to see 1K Bitcoin. I don't know if we see 1K, but I have buy orders in it too. Well, around 2. I won't give up my exact order. It's not 2 straight and it's, whatever. But look, guys, I think it'll get worse before it gets better. In terms of the real world economy, I think the effects will recover quite quickly. The major effects being maybe people not being able to go to work, getting shut out of their places of work, remote work, et cetera, short-term work, temporary work not coming, people, the unemployment rate rising, et cetera. I think that can recover quite quickly. As soon as people think it's safe for them to go out and they don't have to buy 25 rolls of toilet paper a day to make sure that they don't die for some reason, then I think that part of recovery happens quickly. But recovery, people actually feeling safe to reinvest in equities, to buoy what has always been a false economy, that might take some time. That might take some time because the realization might set in that this is all bullshit. That it's all based on sentiment, and sentiment can change based on almost nothing. So we'll have to see. Silver, yeah, silver should always be a good place to go, but silver was What'd silver make it to? 35 an ounce back in, when was that? 2010? Was that 2010? Am I quoting that right? Maybe it was 2009, 2010. And gold, it's been sitting at under 20 forever now. So, silver has way more use cases. It's much harder to mine. It should be worth more than gold. It's just not as pretty. So that's why it's not. Human nature again. Do you think CoinMetro has done well in such volatile days? Does some minor bugs pop out? Has CoinMetro got any problems? Yeah, there's been minor bugs here and there that we've been able to find. But in terms of being able to stay online and not have any major issues, I don't think we found any major issues. But minor bugs will always come out from tech guys because, you're constantly updating, you're updating the tech. You're always going to find small bugs. I think the point is, though, we haven't had anything major, and all small bugs have been looked at, found. So big thanks to everybody who's obviously played a role in doing that, because not the easiest thing to do. When everything recovers, let's say in 12 months, do you think crypto and stocks will go back to a bull market? I'm asking for a friend who bought at the top. Yeah, we all have those friends. Historically speaking, equities always go higher. Look, the entire foundation of the global economy is based on the bullshit economics of the equities markets, right? Tied into the bond market as well, right? It's about sentiment. People need to trust to put their money in the bond market, which then fuels for as well the equities markets, right? Equities markets are based on valuations that are many, many, many times the actual valuation of the companies. It's all built on trust, right? Trusting in. But if you look at history as a guideline, they will recover. Does that mean we go into a bull market? Will probably take more than 12 months. But they will recover. That's for sure. Crypto can also recover and probably will. Will Bitcoin, again, the question is institutional money. What's institutional money thinking now about the crypto space in general? I have an idea what they're thinking. I've already made that pretty clear. We have to see what happens. I think we're still in kind of a shock mode. And over the next coming days and weeks, we will see how this progresses. But for right now, I think a lot of people are going to cash, and rightfully so. I guess the positive thing is that XCM was basically at rock bottom anyway, so it can't fall too much more. Well, I think the positive thing there is that most people that hold XCM don't sell it. That's always been the case, actually. Again, that's usually what happens with stocks. People hold them, they don't sell them. But you can see, again, human nature takes its toll. So look, yeah, I'm not too worried about our business. I'm not too worried about XCM. I'm not really worried about Bitcoin in general either. But if you're a holder, get ready for a roller coaster. And if you're looking to buy, I wouldn't be buying yet. That's for sure. That would be my advice. Do you think the bat soup tasted good? Bat soup? I'm missing the joke there. I don't know. Maybe that one went over my head. I don't know. How is the code refactoring your backend going? Good. Actually, front end has been, I think, almost done or completed. Backend was started by Salvatore, our CTO. I'm not sure what his progress is in terms of percentage-wise, but it's going well. Anyway, I think the point to be made here is most crypto people were living in this nice, glorious bubble. Now, Peter Schiff should be taking a fucking victory lap on Twitter, to be quite honest. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll get squashed next week. But anybody that came out and said that Bitcoin was a safe haven asset, non-correlating, and there was a lot of smart money guys that said that, should probably be thinking about that right now. I mean, they're definitely thinking about it. That's for sure. Where do I see CoinMetro? I don't think this derails much of what we were trying to do, to be quite honest. Again, we're in an industry that, the trading industry in general usually weathers storms quite nice. Because when there's a storm, again, if people have to get to cash, they have to get to cash. And when people get to cash, they're selling, which means there are buyers, right? There's always buyers. They just might not want to buy at the price you're selling at. That's it. So it just means there's always volumes. Volumes are always there. As I said, I think on a Telegram message recently, markets are resilient. Markets are made to be resilient. The problem is that resiliency in markets isn't always the same pattern, right? You don't see the same pattern all the time. People may now see, okay, Bitcoin crashed to 38, jumped up to 5, now it's around 5. I'm going to go ahead and buy here because I think there's some support. And then tonight it drops down to 2,900 and backs up to 43 tomorrow. You know, you don't know right now, right? If you're a chart reader, stop looking at indicators because they're fucking worthless. And if you're looking at fundamentals, the fundamentals are telling you right now that there's no reason to buy at this price point. There's no reason. Now, maybe Bitcoin goes to 10K tomorrow and then sits there for 6 months and then pops to 20. Is that possible? Of course it's possible. Is it probable? Probably not, but it's possible. And if that happens and you're the guy that didn't buy, you shouldn't be pissed. You know why? Because as a trader's job is to find opportunities that fit his risk tolerance. If it doesn't fit, he doesn't take. And not taking a trade is just as good as taking one. In fact, sometimes it's even better. You should never worry about missed opportunities. You should simply worry about getting in and not getting out when you're supposed to, right? So if you're not in, don't get in. If you don't have a reason to get in, if it doesn't hit your, don't get in. For me right now, this level is too risky, right? Too risky on either side. For me, my price point lower to closer to 2K is much less risky, both on the upside and the downside. So, you got to pick your you got to pick your points and you got to mitigate your risk. Now, maybe my price point doesn't get touched. Oh well, I'll find another one at some other point. Big deal. What's your favorite watch brand? That's a hard one. It depends. It depends because there's all types of different watches, right? I like brands sometimes that are much less well known. One of my favorite watches is a Gerald Genta. I think I've worn it once on the show. Gerald Genta was a watch designer, worked for Patek Philippe, worked for several different major watch companies, designing some of their most famous and prestigious watches. Though his own watch brand never got the same limelight as the brands he worked for. But fantastic watches, definitely unique, not like nice complications, et cetera, et cetera. For everyday wear, for sport wear, it's all different. I like unique mechanical things. I like things that are mechanical. I like things that are complex and mechanical. I think it's much more interesting than a fucking Apple Watch. You'll never see me with an Apple Watch ever, unless I go senile at 90 and I don't know. Somebody buys me one and sticks me on and I can't take it off because I have Parkinson's too and my hand's too shaky. But you won't see me with one. I buy them though. My daughter has one and everything. Because it's cool. I think they're cool, but I just wouldn't wear one. It's just not interesting for me. And what watch do you have right now? My daily wear. It's just a Datejust Rolex. Just had it serviced a while back. Takes a lick and keeps on ticking. I think I bought this watch almost 20 years ago. And for the most part, it works just as it did when I bought it. So yeah. Any standouts on the Q2 roadmap? Q2 roadmap. Yeah, that one's still in progress, I think. But in terms of, let's see, standouts on the Q2 roadmap. Well, actually, no, we do have do we have a Q2? I think we just did months. We just did Q1 so far publicly. But look, after we go through dashboard, deposits, and everything streamlined, I think TRAM is probably a good one that needs to get a little rework done in terms of design. On the dev side, tightening up the back-end code. And then on the operations side, releasing a lot of the limitations we have right now in terms of collateral, in terms of leverage, getting those numbers higher. Obviously, from the marketing side, launch our first marketing campaign, start to bring on new clients, streamlining KYC, and bringing on more and more banking and payment gateway providers. How are user numbers this week? Still getting new signups. New signups still coming in. I don't have exact numbers, but we're still getting new signups. What happened to the marketing partnership with Quant? Still, it's in the works. I heard finance talking about sending over some like an invoice to them so that they can move over the funds. I'm not sure if that's happened yet, but it's definitely still in the works. And I like all the diver watches. Look pretty much the same and are boring. Yeah, diver watches are. I used to own a few myself. I had a very big collection probably 10, 15 years ago. Now not so much. But yeah, diver watches can be quite unique and lots of complications as well. So definitely up my alley in terms of complications. What you said is not the moment to buy Bitcoin right now. I'm not giving financial advice to you guys, but for me, I would not buy at this price point. Too much risk. That doesn't mean it can't go higher. It could, right? But for me, the risk to reward ratio, considering the last 48, 72 hours of price action at 5K euro, is insane. And I wouldn't be buying here. What was complicated this week in terms of dev, marketing, biz dev, etc.? I don't know if anything was more complicated than normal, to be quite honest. We've been kind of on a rush sending out applications and documentation to a bunch of different payment service providers and banks and liquidity providers, and bolstering a few things on that end, which has been a pain in the ass. We've had some internal stuff that we had to put together a ton of documentation, which was a little bit brutal. But I hate to say it, but kind of, that's almost what business is like every day. There's always going to be pain points, right? I mean, that's just the way business is. And maybe pain points is the wrong word. There's always going to be stress, right? And there's always going to be things to do and things you don't want to do, things you like to do, everything. I don't know if it's been more complicated this week. It's been more interesting in many ways. The charts it's exciting to look at. They might not be the happiest charts, but they're definitely interesting. We're not stuck in a shitty range, that's for sure. Yeah, sorry, I don't know what's going on with the mic. I'm not really touching it, or I'll have to have a look. Maybe it's got coronavirus. I don't know. When margin posting? Good question. I don't know, actually, in terms of when we exactly are looking to push that live. As you can see, lending with this type of volatility can put you out of business. So I think we need to tighten up a few things before we move too much into that space. But we are looking at other ways to be able to increase leverage without having to take on additional risk ourselves and not placing that risk on our clientele. And we may see some evidence of that over the next 2 to 3 weeks. When do you think of Exodus and how it works compared to exchanges? Haven't really looked at it. So let me see here. Okay, so yeah, I have seen this before, actually. Well, guaranteed you're not paying the best fees. Obviously, you're not. That's because of usability. So usability should be a bit easier. It still requires you to hold assets. Look, holding assets by yourself is not the best thing to do if you're a novice. It's pretty easy to lose access to things. I would say that it's interesting. I think they definitely have the ability to attract a certain type of user. I think over time, a lot of exchanges are going to add in this type of functionality for a more expensive charge. But it's not revolutionary. And I'm not sure that it's really a lead to like mass adoption and things like that. Though I think for certain individuals, it's probably something that would suit them better than the complications that come to the normal exchange experience. Completed. Okay. What was completed this week? Well, I think I touched on the same thing. They were complicated but completed, right? All those different applications, sending out all this other stuff. We hired somebody in marketing. We're still looking for other people in other positions. In terms of biz dev, on Ignium, there's been a few things in terms of issuers. On CoinMetro side, I guess banking partners and things like that are still biz dev. So yeah, I think I already covered those. They were complicated, but on the way to completion, I guess. How about virtual IBANs? Yep, virtual IBANs, still digging into that currently with LHV. There's kind of mum's the word on virtual IBANs. We have a few other providers we're looking at as well for those virtual IBANs. So yeah, the timeline might be a bit extended, but it's definitely still, but no new news on virtual IBANs so far this week. UK faster payments, also part of the reason why we're sending out all these different applications. We want to make sure we can get that online as soon as possible. One of the companies that's provides banking as a service that we talked to more than a year ago, is now ready to onboard us, and that would mean faster payments as well as we already have SEPA Instant, but SEPA Instant as well, but through a completely different means. So yeah. Anyway, it's there. There's no. Unfortunately, I can't give you clarity right now as to when, but it's priority. My priorities right now have shifted a bit, mainly to bolstering. Because of what happened with not having SEPA withdrawals for X amount of time, I don't want to ever see that happen again. So bolstering up our payment gateways, banking relationships, et cetera, has come on the forefront of my plate over the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks. How long will CoinMetro be in the top 10 exchanges in Europe? I don't know. I have no idea. It's not even a goal of mine, to be honest. It's an indirect goal, because obviously growing our company will get us there. I would say that it's probably, if I had to take an educated guess, starting marketing now, getting towards the end of the year, moving towards self-sustainability, trying to get into basically with a goal of profitability in 2021. I would say towards end of 2021 into 2022 is probably a good time to look at something like that. When the 28 currencies, same thing. That's why bolstering banking, all that comes along the same. Now the company on the same lines. The partner that originally offered that to us told me now 4 weeks, 1 week ago, to having euro and pound officially online, and then within 3 to 4 weeks of that, having access to the majority of those 28 currencies. Now we're also looking at other providers that can provide some of those currencies, other banking solutions that can provide some of those currencies. So it might be a bit piecemeal. We might be coming in with just this new, that new, this new, that new over time, but it's all in progress. Will there be much noise regarding the CSD launch? We're going to try to make as much noise as we can. It probably won't happen on the 23rd. We're looking to do it with the Montenegro government, which, by the way, on Monday will go into quarantine. So I think that's one thing that coronavirus will probably do, is delay some of these type of things. I think even in terms of marketing, guys, some things might, I hate to say it, but might make sense to wait in terms of specific type of marketing. When it comes to PR with Montenegro, it's probably going to be delayed because of that quarantine. So we'll have to see, but there will be lots of buzz. I just don't know when we're going to push it, because it depends a lot on when they're willing to do it as well, because part of the main push for CSD and CoinMetro is going to be coordinated PR with the Montenegro government. And that's both locally, regionally, and globally. Anyway, guys, to be honest, guys, I kind of, this whole week, aside from all this other horseshit nonsense, I feel kind of good about this week, to be honest. I think it, waking people up from stupidity is a good thing overall. I think it shows that we still have a lot of work to get done. Kind of sparks, some creativity and some kind of let's get things done in me, to be honest. It's easy to get complacent, guys. I mean, I talk about it, but I can still get complacent on things as well. A little bit of crisis is never a bad thing. A little bit of crisis lights a fire, fires get things moving, get things hot. And we need that. And so, I don't know. I'm kind of hyped, to be quite honest. All right, guys, we're approaching the hour here. It's been, if you're a hodler, a holder, you just told your grandmother to buy Bitcoin and she bought in at 8K with her life savings, it's been a rough week. But rough weeks are what make true professionals. So you guys all, if you made it through this week and you're still able to put a fucking sentence together, congratulations. Put a star up on the board. You're making progress towards actually becoming a professional. So great on you. As I always say, yeah, global panic, it's like being in a movie, it's like you're watching a movie. Sometimes, you just can't believe it. I look out my window and we have a 24-hour supermarket. The only chain, I think, that does 24 hours in Estonia. I think they now have 2 or 3 stores. It used to be the only one, but maybe 4 stores locally, 3, I think. Anyway, that are 24 hours. There was like at 4 a.m., it was packed. I was watching people walking out, mainly with toilet paper. I guess that's not surprising anymore. But it's, the crazy thing about that, though, even if you're not a nutcase, at some point, I'm going to have to buy some toilet paper. And if I do it too late, there's not going to be any left. right? So I become a nutcase because other people are nutcases. It's pretty fucking weird, you know, if you really think about it. You know, I'm not the type of guy that's going to run to the supermarket because a hurricane's coming or a tornado or something and go buy, you know, 900 cans of tuna fish, put them below my house in a bunker with a AK-47, 55,000 rounds of ammunition and a bunch of astronaut ice cream, you know, and with my tinfoil hat, you know, in my fucking transistor radio so I can listen to some crazy German guy that's doing the same thing on the other side of the world and feel less crazy. I don't do that shit. But what happens is when the world does it, at some point, you kind of got to do the same thing, you know? But yeah, interesting. Anyway, guys, look, take off the tinfoil hats, ground yourself in reality, understand that if you're in China, it's probably going to get back to reality in the next maybe 15 to 30 days. If you're everywhere else, we're going to go through what China went through. So get ready for absolute fucking ridiculousness for the next 30 to 60 days. But know that regardless of what you see on CNN, BBC, whatever, that maybe this is the respiratory virus that makes it through the summer. No, it won't. No, it won't. I'm not saying that because I want to calm people. I'm saying that because, I mean, it won't. It's a respiratory illness. That's just the way shit works. You know, even the worst fucking outbreak of all time. That's just how they work with respiratory illnesses. So, you know, sit back, get ready for the ride. Anyway, have a good weekend. Spend time with friends and family. Even if you have to do that over a Skype call behind your fucking 3M mask, you know, get her done. Buy some XCM because let's be honest, folks, over the past week, it's outperformed almost every other digital asset. It was already at a pretty low price, but hey, you know, and we don't need much liquidity to come in to boost it, right? A lot of liquidity needs to come into Bitcoin and Ethereum right now to get them back to where they were. Not so much with XCM. So anyway, have a good weekend. You know, don't look at price. Don't panic. Don't be a moron. See you guys here next week. And yeah, that's it. Tag me on Telegram at Kevin Murcko. Tag me on Twitter at Kevin Murcko. Tag me wherever you want to tag me. Ask me a question. I'll answer it. And thanks, guys, for being here. Thanks for showing up and not quarantining yourself. And, you know, don't go cough on old people. That's it. Have a good weekend, guys. Cheers.